The weather really turned nasty for the second AA Fleetcare race. The rain came bucketing down, and with an icy wind, it was thoroughly unpleasant. More serious from the driver's point of view, the light was fading badly and conditions were going to be tricky, to say the least. Want to be a race driver in these conditions, but the show goes on. The lights are green for round 12 of the AA Fleetcare Super Touring Car Championship, and Mike White got a flyer in the Minolta Camry, and Chris Aberdeen is stranded on the line in the Rothmans Audi. It's almost impossible to see who is who, but it looks as though it was Steve Wyndham in the Saddle 4 Mondeo who got into the first corner ahead of Mike White. The conditions make racing fraught with danger, and these drivers are going to earn their pay. And that is Sean van der Linde parking the BMW Enviro car on the side of the circuit, and BMW's cup of woe is overflowing, with Dion Joubert also out, and both BMWs retire before the first corner. Neither Nissan made it to the start, and with Aberdeen, Rothmans, Audi and both BMWs out of the race, the field has already been decimated. Steve Wyndham it is who leads Mike White with Briggs third. It's almost impossible to identify the cars on some parts of the circuit, but it looks as though Terry Moss in the second Rothmans Audi is up into fourth ahead of Sarel van der Merwe in the second Sassel Ford. Headlights burning in the gloom and bouncing off the spray make for an eerie sight. Conditions could not be worse, and it's a lot darker than it looks on your screen. The rain is still coming down, and with all the spray from the circuit, it's a mystery how the drivers can see where they're going. The circuit's like an ice rink, and this is really frightening. Steve Wyndham learned his racing here at Killarney and knows this circuit like the back of his hand. He leads a super touring event for the first time in his brief career with the Sassel Ford Mondeo team. Mike White is still second in the Minolta Toyota Camry, but he could run into a few problems for stealing a march on the rest of the field at the start. Mike Briggs is tucked in behind White, with Terry Moss fourth in conditions just made for the Rothmans Audi. Briggs is putting plenty of pressure on Mike White in the Minolta Camry, and Terry Moss is creeping closer and closer to the pair. Sarel van der Merwe is fifth ahead of Anthony Taylor in the Castrol Toyota Camry, and the way these drivers maintain this sort of pace in these conditions is unbelievable. Steve Wyndham leaves the field onto the back straight, and both Briggs and Moss have got past Mike White. In the spray, you can hardly see the Minolta Camry tucked in behind the Rothmans Audi. Wyndham is the only car running without lights, and he either can't reach or find the light switch, or he has an electrical problem. The verges of the circuit at Stanek Corner are virtually flooded, and these must be just about the worst conditions encountered in 3 years of super touring racing in South Africa. It's getting darker by the minute, but still Steve Wyndham hasn't switched on his lights. Championship leader Mike Briggs in the Opel Vectra and Terry Moss in the Rothmans Audi are slowly creeping up on the Sassel Ford. A mistake there from Moss as he runs a little wide at Hole's Hook, and Mike White is back into third place. Moss just misjudged his braking there, but it's so easy to do that in these conditions, where if you're tucked in behind someone, it's very difficult to see. Now Briggs closes right up on Wyndham under braking. The Opel Vectra made up 10 or 15 metres on the Sassel Ford on the brakes, and Wyndham is going to find it increasingly difficult to stay ahead of Briggs. Mike Briggs is piling on the pressure as they come into the Volkswagen corner. As was the case in his first race battle with Dion Joubert in the BMW, Wyndham is having to drive defensively. He managed to stave off Joubert before being punted off the circuit, but the Opel is through. Mike Briggs is back where he's been virtually all season, and that is leading AA Fleetcare Super Touring races. Terry Moss has also got past White again and is back in third place. Those headlights on the back straight should belong to race and Super Touring Championship leader Mike Briggs in the Opel Vectra. Indeed they do, and now tucked into second place is Steve Wyndham in the Sassel 4 Mondeo. Terry Moss in the Rothmans Audi, which should be reveling in these conditions with four-wheel drive, is in third place, followed by Mike White in the Minolta Camry and Sarel van der Merwe in the second Sassel Ford Mondeo. The final stages of this race with Leon Marie leading Class B in the Bankfin Toyota Sprinter. Leon had rotten luck in round 11 when he had a handy lead in Class B, only to run into a mechanical failure. He has another handy lead over Duncan Voss in the Accord Nissan Sentra, with Hein Latergan in the Motorbild VW Jetta, and looks to be on his way to a maiden win. This is the last lap, with Mike Briggs coming into Stanek Corner for the last time, followed by Terry Moss, who is too far behind to be a serious threat to the Opel. It's been a masterful display in the wet by Briggs, and will make up for his disappointment of a 30-second penalty in round 11. checkered flag is out for Mike Briggs and Terry Moss. Steve Wyndham is third in the Saddle-Ford Mondeo, and as we expected, Mike White has been penalised for a jump start. A 30-second penalty drops him to 5th behind Cyril van der Merwe, with Class B winner Leon Marie in a fine 6th place overall.
The car was brilliant. You know, to dispel any rumours that our cars weren't good in the wet, I really thought I'd put in a good charge, and I quite love the wet. You know, it's quite ironic that the two Port Elizabeth boys, we're used to having drought down there, but when we get the wet, we really enjoy these conditions.
Don't miss rounds 13 and 14 of the action-packed AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship at the East London Grand Prix circuit on Saturday the 10th of June. Be there or see highlights in the AA Racing Report, exclusively on NNTV Sport on Saturday the 17th of June. The AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship, Africa's most exciting racing formula.